Okay, today I'm going to talk about three things. I'm going to talk about a myth that has come up in our class discussions and readings about brain. I'm going to tie that into the readings that we've been doing with Carrie and how we learn, and some of the articles we've been reading. And I'll also talk about how I might implement some of these learning techniques mentioned in the readings in my classroom. So, the myth, the inaccurate information that I found interesting this week. Here's the inaccurate information. Mentioned in an article. If a traumatic brain injury doesn't show up in brain imaging, then it does not exist. So this is inaccurate because concussions can do damage to the brain that is not visibly found in an MRI or a CAT scan. So even though you might not see any damage, you definitely might have problems with learning, and there might be some physical problems with the person. So I've coached football, hockey, and snowboarders who are very competitive, and so I'm dealing with students probably 3 to 5 major head injuries a year, and I should be aware that just because the doctors say it's okay, just because the CAT scan says the student is okay, the student might not be okay. And personally, um, just about 2.5 months ago, I broke my neck. I suffered a major, brain injury, and so I'm kind of dealing with this. I wasn't sure if I was going to be ready to start this program because I was so banged up. It happened on Father's Day, about 3 weeks before I started this master's degree. So I'm kind of in a situation where I need to make sure I'm being efficient. I need to make sure I'm using the best learning techniques to be a student because I'm teaching full time and I'm a dad. So I need to make best use of my time. So how does all this tie in with the reading and eventually with my students in my classroom? Well, as I recover from my injury, like I said, I need to be efficient. I need to be efficient in my studying because I have a family, I coach, and I teach. For myself and my students, there are research-driven best practices that I should be using. I should be employing certain techniques when I teach, and when I encourage students to study, there are certain research-driven techniques they should be doing as well. From the reading this week, Carey's book, some of his articles or collections of articles, and the article about improving student learning, I've learned that there are some learning techniques out there that are considered high utility, and when experts say a learning technique is high utility, I think I absolutely, definitely should be using it. And if they consider something moderate utility, I'm probably going to use it and recommend it to students as well. So the final thing I'll talk about is how I should implement and what I should implement in my classroom after doing all these readings. So it's important that so when I'm teaching math, it's important that I consult the math standards so I know what I should be teaching in the state of Washington. And when I encourage students to study, I should, be providing them with research-driven techniques that experts have shown will help students, retain information over long periods of time. So, for example, in the article Improving Student Learning, practice testing is a technique that may enhance how well students organize information. Some of the factors that come up with practice testing are the format that students use. There are different formats to be testing yourself, and how often you do it, dosage and timing. So the more you study, it tends to help more, and the timing, we'll see that instead of cramming the night before an exam, we should be spreading out those study sessions. That's definitely going to help us retain that information over longer periods of time. Practice testing is easy to implement. It helps a broad range of students, and it helps a broad age range of students deal with a broad range of materials. So that's why it's high utility. Another high utility learning practice is distributed practice. Practice that's spread out over a period of time, not cramming the night before an exam. If I have 2 weeks to learn some information, if I cram the night before that test, I will know the information the next day, but I won't know it weeks, months, and years later. So distributed practice, studying a little bit every day is a best learning practice that's considered high utility by the experts in the article I mentioned earlier. There are some other moderate utility learning techniques that were mentioned in the article, and these should not be thrown away. It just means that maybe they haven't been studied as much. Maybe there's only certain types of information that are really useful to study in this way. But elaborative interrogation, self-explanation, and interleave practice, which is something I'm definitely doing as a math teacher, are three medium utility techniques that experts have mentioned in the readings this week. So in conclusion, my final 2 points would be this. I should continue to study research-driven learning techniques and use the ones that are highly recommended by experts. And I should tell my students about these things. That's one big point. The second big point is, for me, I need to personally take these learning techniques and personalize them, experiment with them. Do I like studying in the morning, at night? Should I be taking a nap in the afternoon? Should I be, walking a mile in between study sessions? Should I go drink in a bar and watch a hockey game? So those are the things I need to consider to personalize these techniques and become a better student. Thank you.